Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am so excited to have our special guest speakers with us, Karen and Dino, who have been longtime instructors here at CatholicMarriagePrep.com and have shared their incredible testimony with many of our engaged couples. And I'm really excited for them to speak about their story for the next 20 to 30 minutes with you guys today to share some insight and resources for you. We hope to have time the last 5 to 10 minutes for questions and answers with Karen and Dino. If you do choose to ask a question, I will give everyone permission to unmute themselves within the last 5 to 10 minutes within our session. So you have that option to ask Karen and Dino a question. I am going to turn off my video and let Karen and Dino take it away. So I don't waste any time. I will turn my video back on during those questions. So thanks so much again, Karen and Dino, and I will let you take it away.
All right, thank you. All right, so we are Deano and Karen Gonzales.
Hello.
Hi. We have been married for 37 years, going on 38. And we'll just give you a little bit of background, of how we met and our marriage and the struggles and things that we have had. We met in college. We were both singing at church in the singing group. And so both very involved in church, very excited when we got engaged and planning our wedding. We even had our rings made, and we had the word Emmanuel in Hebrew put on our wedding rings, which of course meant God with us. And so started off our journey, definitely God being the center of it, and also pretty naive in a way, thinking that we had it all together. And it was going to be years later that we learned that really wasn't the case. So we, right after college, got transferred to Texas, a place that we never thought we would live. And that was kind of, like Dino would say, that was kind of a desert place for him, just trying to really get to know his faith. And go ahead,
Well, Texas was just a place where I came to know Jesus more. It was a place where I fell in love with the poor Jesus during Texas. And we were there 8 years, and we were just, after 8 years, we were moved to Colorado. So after that, things started to rock a little bit for us.
Right. By the time we moved to Colorado, we had 2 children. After our second pregnancy, the doctors had told us that we probably shouldn't have any more kids because I had a medical condition called polycystic kidney disease that they felt would be detrimental to my health and detrimental to the baby's health if we continued with more pregnancies. And so we continued. Of course, they're trying to push for us to tie our tubes and things like that, but we continued to practice NFP during that time, just trusting in the Lord, for what his plan was for our family. In the early years in Colorado, Dino had a very strong desire to be in community life, and so he joined the secular Franciscans. And then in addition, he joined a group called Brothers and Sisters of Charity. And of course, I was supportive of that, but it meant that he was gone from the home quite a bit with meetings at night. And lo and behold, things like bitterness and anger started to kind of well up in me. I felt stressed. I too was working during the day and just taking care of the kids at night and things. I started having a lot of feelings of, this just isn't fair. And so with all of that happening, we were in a singing group together up here at church. And there was a gentleman there who was paying quite a bit of attention to me. And with me feeling very empty at home, I crossed the line. And had an affair with this man. And the affair went on, off and on, for about 2 years. And Dino definitely during that time had his suspicions, but if you've ever dealt with people who have had an affair, we will do anything when we're in that snare of being deceivers to try to make very light of those suspicions and even be somewhat or demean the other person. You know, what do you mean? How can you think something like that's going on? That type of thing. After a couple of years, this gentleman had a wife who found out about the affair, called our home, and spoke with me on the phone and told me that if I didn't tell my husband, she would. And so in the year 2000, which at this point we had been married 14 years,
Yeah,
about
14 years, yeah.
The news of the affair came to light. And in the affair also, I did get pregnant. We did not know whose child he was. It was our son, that we didn't know whose child he was. And I guess we'll get to this later, but through counseling and the things that we received, we were like, you know, at that point, it really didn't matter. We were going to have our son and we were going to love him as our own. But I'm going to let you talk a little bit about what happened when it first came out.
Yeah. You know, when it first came out is January 2000. It was the Great Jubilee, the year of the Great Jubilee, where all the slaves are set free, which was a very key moment for us, a very prophetic moment that we find later on. I refer to that day as D-Day. It was just horrific. I was in despair, total despair. The pain was excruciating. I describe it as Karen opening up my heart and putting an atomic bomb inside and letting it go off. That's how I describe the pain. I was lost, you know, initially I was just totally lost. I was confused, all that. I wandered around. I remember wandering around. I'm gonna kind of paraphrase a lot of things. I wandered around the town of Arvada here in Colorado, in the Denver metro area. I wandered around Arvada driving. It was late at night. I drove around not knowing what to do, asking God, what am I supposed to do? I ended up in an old town Arvada near St. Anne's Catholic Church. Nobody was around. It was really late at night. And I looked up and I saw a cross lit on top of the church, really bright. It was just lit bright. And I knew I needed to go home. It's still emotional for me. So I went home. And there was a point during this time where I was just lost. You know, I saw clearly two paths that I could choose: the path to forgive or the path not to forgive. And I knew the path of unforgiveness because I've seen it played out so many times in my own extended family. You know, families are just ripped apart, and I knew I didn't want that for my kids. We had 5 kids at that time. So I remember sitting on a rocking chair, just rocking it, and Karen came and sat at my feet. And I asked her, what do you want from me? You know, what do you want from me? And she said, I want mercy. I wanted mercy. It was at that moment where the Holy Spirit just overcame me. And it was clear to me, it was made very clear to me what path I'm to choose. Forgiveness.
And so I was dealing with a ton of shame. A person doesn't just wake up and decide, hey, I'm going to go have an affair and rip my husband's heart apart. There's a lot of, we came to discover a lot of different things that bring a person to that point. But here we are, I'm seeking mercy. His heart is blown apart. And at that time we had been getting a little bit involved with the community of the Beatitudes in Denver. And we knew Christian and Christine Merritt, who actually are the founders of the Agape Catholic Ministries. But that wasn't even going on at that time. And Dino drove me down to their house, to the house that they all were staying at. And they were the first people, Christian and Christine were the first people that gave us hope. Most people are going to tell you that if you have an affair, your marriage is pretty much going to be over. And
especially if there's a child born in it.
And they were the first people to say, look, you guys took the sacrament of matrimony. There are graces in that sacrament of matrimony, and God intended for the two of us to be together. And He will show you a way through this. I would say we were still pretty emotionally, destroyed. We were very disconnected, but it was a seed of hope. And that is exactly what we needed at that time. In addition, my sister had come down earlier in the year, and she and her husband were getting involved in some counseling, which was called Biblical Concepts of Counseling. Now, this is not a Catholic program, but Dino and I knew that we needed help, like quickly, because our life was a shambles. And Dino wanted me to call and set up the counseling. That was not something I could do because of the shame that I felt. I was just kind of immobilized with the shame. But we called, and this is a type of counseling. It's anyway, we were able to get into the program in 2 weeks, although typically there's a 2-year waiting period to get into this type of counseling.
No, I think we should go.
So when we arrived to counseling, the counselor says, so what are you here for? And Dino's first thing was, well, she needs to be fixed. And I certainly was like, yes, something is totally wrong with me, because why would I have done what I had done? While the affair was going on, there was just so many times where I was like, I just don't want to be doing what I'm doing. I really felt like, in Romans, when he's saying, I don't want to be doing what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway. And so I was very anxious to get into the counseling. The counseling was very in-depth. It was a week long. It was afternoons, from 1 to 5 each afternoon down in Colorado Springs. But what we discovered, just even on the first day of counseling, which again gave us hope, was that, again, people don't just wake up and have an affair. And what we discovered was that we both came to this marriage as two very wounded people. When we were getting married on our wedding day, we thought we had it all together, but all of us have wounds from our upbringing, that we come to the altar with. And if we haven't ever dealt with that, if we haven't ever talked about it, discovered them, it really does affect how your marriage proceeds. I had issues with feeling like, with kind of a low self-esteem. When I was 8 years old, I had read a Christmas letter my mom had written. She would write little blurbs about all of us kids. It was the year I was born. I was reading back, looking at them. And she said, hey, Karen was born this year, low man on the totem pole. As an 8-year-old, I also had red hair. I was the only person with red hair in my family. So they always teased me that there was a baby mix-up at the hospital. Those things sound funny, but as an 8-year-old, how I interpreted that was that I didn't measure up and I didn't belong. In fact, I tried to go back down to the hospital when I was about 10 to go find my real parents. Doesn't make any sense, but that's kind of where it took me. And Deano discovered.
I grew up with the rejection and abandonment. My mom would leave, my dad would leave. There was a period of time where my dad, my mom left for months, and I didn't know where she went. She was just gone one day, and I don't know where she went or how long when she was going to come back. So I grew up. I was just a little kid. I grew up with feeling rejected and abandoned my whole life. And so when I got married, I recall this very clearly, that when I got married and through our first few years of marriage, I knew Karen was going to leave me. I didn't know when. I just figured she was going to leave me because everybody else did. That was in my mind. So that's what I brought to the marriage, those wounds.
And so how we communicated with one another throughout, our marriage was based on that woundedness. Me never feeling like I could do things to please Deano enough, to be the good enough wife, and I really became pretty much of a robot. I wasn't going to let anything affect me. It didn't matter what somebody would say to me. I just was going to plow through life. And I really was, at the beginning of our marriage, pretty much a bulldozer in the marriage.
Yeah, and I was more of a Minnie Mouse. I grew up very timid, and again, I knew Karen was going to leave me, so I was always very shy. I never could connect emotionally with Karen, just for fear that she was going to leave. So I was very timid in our marriage, and I didn't really make a stand. I just let her kind of rule the roost for the most part, which was a mistake.
So through the counseling, we discovered these different wounds. We discovered the different perceptions that we had and the ripple effects of those perceptions, some of the negative thought patterns that we would go into, all these things, and realizing that the source of that was not Deano, it wasn't me, but the source really is that Satan does try to come to destroy marriage. We're the domestic church on earth, so he's out there trying to destroy. And so we had to, as the counselor would say, kind of clean up our relationship, clean up our marriage. We had to go back and go through many different areas, pride and moral failure issues and negative thought pattern issues, all that, and really bring Jesus to it and renounce Satan's hold on us. And by the end of the week, so just in 5 days, the freedom that we felt, the connectedness that we felt with one another, we ached for one another, it was miraculous. It truly, truly was. And it was very evident to all of our friends that were helping us take care of all of our kids at that time. It was a true gift from God. We still had things that we needed to think about. We didn't know who our son's biological father was. We had heard and we had sought counsel with, different priests and things like that, who were saying, because of their experience with this, it's a really tricky area. It doesn't usually turn out well if you tell your child. But because of all that God had done for us, we were like, we're going to trust in God. And at some point, we are going to tell all of our kids what we have gone through, because they need to understand what God can do and how he never leaves us or abandons us. He is there. And so as time went on, God graced us with a ton of different things. One, I think he foresaw when our wedding rings were engaged with the word Emmanuel, God with us. The Jubilee year that this came out, where the doors are opened wide, and freedom is showered upon people. So with our son, we were out to dinner with some friends, and he was going to be a junior in high school. And anyway, their son was a year ahead, and he was saying, hey, we learned about our blood type in AP Science, which is what our son was going to go into. We knew that we did not want him finding out his blood type in a science class. So he was also in a study at a hospital because he has the kidney disease. I was able to get his blood type. It was not a direct, or it was not a match to Deano's or mine. So at that point, this is of course several years later, we know that that Deano is not Anthony's biological father. But when we went to tell Anthony this, we were driving him to a park. We felt like we were just, I mean, I know we're going to have to kind of hurry this up, but when we told him, he just looked right at Deano and he said, you know, you're my dad. You've always been my dad. And he hugged him, and then he hugged me and he says, Mom, I'm so glad you chose life for me. And he has never missed a beat. We then told his older sisters, and we waited a little bit to tell his younger sisters. But our whole family knows, the in-laws know. It's just really brought our family closer and closer together.
I think what helped us, that's kind of a brief what happened, what helped us, what we come to realize, what really helped us get through the marriage or get through the crisis, we cried out to God for help. That was the bottom line, and he hastens to help us. He just hastens. When you read the Psalms, he hastens to help his people who cry out to him. Having a mentor couple was important. Christian and Christine were that for us for a period of time, and they still are. We love them very much. And for me to understand that a person just doesn't wake up to have an affair, that Satan is always involved in that. He comes to steal, kill, and destroy. There's one verse there where Jesus tells Peter, Satan has asked for you. I believe that Satan has asked for us. So I just put all that together, and I just know that the enemy is at play here, so I understood the battle. In our counseling, he talked about the battle, in Ephesians, he talked about spiritual warfare. I really believed in that. So that helped me, that helped us along the way. We surrounded ourselves with what they call trusted believers, people who wanted to journey with us, because we were part of a small church community then. We were part of them for about 20 years, and we attribute a lot of our survival to them. There was 3 affairs in that group, and they all survived.
I think that having a community to journey with, of people who are willing to fight for their marriage is important. And I think all young couples who are just getting married, they need to have that kind of community type support as well.
So we're gonna have to kind of move things along here. But what was important for us, Karen and I, we didn't read a lot of books. There was one book that we read, The Return of the Prodigal Son by Henry Nouwen. That really helped us a lot. But most of the time we immersed ourselves in the scriptures. There were so many scripture verses that just helped us along. One was in Isaiah 43, forget the former things of the past. Do not dwell on the past, but look to the future. It's emerging now. Can you not see it? When you pass through the raging waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, you will not drown. Verses like that kept us going, kept me going, going in despair.
Because part of the counseling was, as we started to, if we were getting into areas where, say, I was swirling down into shame, or Deano is swirling down into he's not trusting, he's angry at me, he's bitter, whatever, is to have some scripture verses, because that is the truth. Scripture is the truth that would help pull you out of that. And you would pray that quickly, and you would renounce the ground that Satan was trying to take a hold of. And we still do that even, to this day.
Yeah, I think the bottom line for that is, Karen and I, we converged at the cross.
Right.
That's what we had to do. We converged at the cross.
Also, what was helpful was that, and as we work with couples who are dealing with this, they need people to journey with them. They need people initially in that when it's first coming out and all, who will be there 24/7. Meaning, you know, if couples that we work with, if they're starting to swirl downward and they cannot get themselves out of that, they need to call us right away. It doesn't matter if it's the middle of the night or whatever, they need to call us so that we can get them back to God, have them be praying, have them get refocused, get focused on the truth.
Yeah, I think part of why we like help, we don't have an open sign in our house, in our door that says we're open for business. You know, we let God bring couples to us, you know, and they show up out of the blue sometimes, you know, because our commitment is to our family. Excuse me right now. But there was a saying that really struck me it was by Pope Benedict. I'm going to read just a little bit of you. It was dated August 17th, 2007 from Zenit. And just I'm going to just read this real quickly. He says, marriage preparation is not enough. The great crises come later. Consequently, ongoing guidance, at least in the first 10 years, is the utmost importance in the parish. Therefore, it is not only necessary to provide preparatory courses, but also communion in the journey that follows, guidance and mutual help. May priests, but not only on their own, and families which have already undergone such experiences and are familiar with such suffering and temptations, be available in moments of crisis. The presence of a network of families that help one another is important, and different movements can make a considerable contribution. It is necessary to help people find this faithfulness and learn it, even in the midst of suffering. We're firm believers that it's honestly couples like us, people who've weathered these kinds of trials, can go back and help those younger couples who are experiencing the same kind of trial, because we've experienced it. We can help them navigate those waters. And we don't have the answers to everybody. We know our story, our testimony. That's what we witness. We have a witness that we offer to these couples, that we offer hope. Initially, we offer hope to them that it's not the end. If they want to make it work, it can work.
And for couples, even prior to, you know, hopefully the goal would be to help them not have these kind of struggles.
Right.
I mean, God has showered us with grace, but I wouldn't wish this on anyone. So we do enjoy and love to work with young couples to just help them avoid some of.
Yeah, and when we work with a couple, we pretty much overhaul their whole life. We look at their lifestyle, the movies they watch, the music they listen to, whether they go to church or not, to get involved in church, because they need to be part of a community of believers.
To frequent the sacraments.
Yes, yes, that's very, very important to do that. And honestly, they need, I think having a small church community of some sort is critical in their journey.
So I know we kind of are running. So if there are any questions.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much, Karen and Deano. Don't be sorry. That was so amazing. And you guys are a blessing to so many couples out there. So thank you so much for sharing your story. We can spend the last 2 minutes asking Karen and Deano questions if you have any. I will give you all access to unmute yourselves. So you will still have to click the button, the microphone that you see on your screen to ask a question. But feel free to jump off or ask a question. Deacon Coleman in the chat says, "Love you guys." We love you too.
Say hey to Maria.
Perfect. No questions mean you guys did a great job.
We're free. People want to call sometime. We're open.
Yeah, perfect. And I will share this webinar with all of you who attended today, along with Karen and Deano's contact information. So if you have a couple in a similar situation who you would like advice from Karen and Deano, you can definitely contact them that way. But again, Karen and Deano, thank you so much for your incredible story and sharing it with us today. You guys are amazing, and what you do to help couples are just truly amazing. So I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate everyone attending today. So thank you. Thank you all
Thank
so
you.
much.
All
Have
right.
a
God
great
bless.
day, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.